Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CAMLIS 2024. Woo! I'm so excited to be here with you all today with Lauren and our co-chairs. I also wanted to put a big thanks to Sands Capital for this incredible venue and the beautiful sunrise and the wonderful day that we'll have here. I want to also thank all the many volunteers and our sponsors, all the speakers, poster presenters, and all of you for finding your way here today to join us. There's a couple of housekeeping rules. So Sands has offered this space to us. They're so gracious, but it is also an active working space. So anything beyond the kitchen, we ask you not to head down there and be respectful of folks doing their day jobs here. And then also the bathroom location, there's one bathroom back this way. And also, as you can see, we're trying not to have too many people come in and out of the front. No, just kidding. Come on. And the other thing, there's a couple new things happening this year that we're really excited about. One of them is a networking event tomorrow called the Breakfast Club. If you have pre-registered for this event, it is limited attendance. If you pre-registered, you should have received a survey, a pre-event survey. So you have until tomorrow morning. If you could please take a moment to fill out that survey, we'd be really grateful for your responses. And then I'll hand it over to Lauren.
Hi. Hey, everyone. So a couple more important items, one of which is lunch, which we still have a few talks before we get to, but just to give you a preview, lunch is actually going to be served in this building right out here. So right in like the breakfast area where all the food was out before, you can pick up a boxed lunch when we get there, and you can sit out here, but I also highly recommend you go up to the rooftop, because if you like this view, I think you're going to be very impressed when you go up one more floor and see what it looks like. And the weather is perfect today, and there's a bunch of seating options out there, so you can grab your lunch out there. Another item for those of us who are remote, or also for people here who would prefer, you can use the Slack channel, CAMLIS 2024, for any questions that you have during the talks. So we'll be monitoring the Slack and including those questions for the speakers. And if you are looking for the Slack, just go to the camlis.org website and you can find a link at the bottom. And then finally, one of the other new things we have going on this year is there's a red teaming event happening here in the same building with CAMLIS. So you may have seen some people wandering around with special badges. They're not badges that indicate that we ran out of regular badges. No, they are red team badges. You can tell because they have a little red border on them. So if you see someone wearing one of these badges, go say hi, talk to them, learn more about the event that they're doing. Throughout the event, they'll be down on the 28th floor actively and just like maliciously trying to break poor little defenseless generative AI products that never did anything to them. But about half of them will be in the conference at any given time, so they'll be coming and going. So yeah, please reach out and say hi and learn more about the program. And the red teaming program, I should say, is run by Humane Intelligence. So we have Ruman downstairs. If you see her, say hi, and feel free to poke your head in and see all these malicious evildoers at work. Okay. Anything else, Rachel? Okay. So I think with that, we will pass it over to Hiram to introduce our first keynote speaker.
Thank you, Rachel and Lauren. It's my pleasure today to introduce Lisa Einstein. I'm just wait for a minute while the slide comes up for this. Lisa Einstein serves as CISA's first Chief AI Officer. And in that role, she leads CISA's efforts to responsibly adopt AI tools that can help advance the agency's mission, and works to identify and mitigate risks to U.S. critical infrastructure associated with AI. Lisa previously served as a senior advisor for AI at CISA. and as Executive Director of CISA's Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. In those previous roles, she led the development and implementation of CISA's AI roadmap to promote beneficial uses of AI to enhance CISA's cybersecurity capabilities, to ensure AI systems are protected from cybersecurity threats, and to mitigate the risks that malicious uses of AI pose for critical infrastructure. And if you can tell, every time I say CISA, there's a little part of me that wants to say CISA, and I know half of you do this too. And on that note, I just want to play this, I think, very snarky video from, if I can advance the slides there in the back on them, to set the record.
CISA. CISA. Seriously, it's not that hard. It is pronounced CISA.
With that out of the way, I just want you to know that Lisa's work at CISA is extremely important. Outside of work, Lisa is a part-time research advisor at the Stanford Intelligent Systems Laboratory. She was Stanford's first dual master's degree recipient in computer science with an AI focus and in international policy with a cyber policy and security focus. While at Stanford, she led Lieutenant General retired McMaster's research team on emerging technologies and geopolitics and conducted AI research, including co-developing the first AI speech recognition models for 3 West African languages spoken by 10 million people in 7 countries. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Lisa helped to organize a massively scaled free virtual class that taught introductory coding skills to 22,000 students from 148 countries by mobilizing 2,000 volunteers, teaching assistants. She's also been a Peace Corps volunteer in Guinea. She taught physics to 600 students while there. Interestingly, Lisa received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Princeton in physics and ... dance. And danced professionally for several years, including with Camille A. Brown and dancers. Amazing. So I think there's something about being in the arts, if you'll forgive me, Lisa, being willingly vulnerable on stage that imparts and imbues a special talent to Lisa. The virtue of confidence, of vulnerability, and the subsequent empathy for all those paying attention. That's CVE, confidence, vulnerability, and empathy. That's perfect for establishing a culture of information sharing and disclosure in our industry and in her important role at CISA. And I think you'll also appreciate that in our community at CAMLIS. So without further introduction, please welcome Lisa Einstein to the stage.
Well, I think that's the most interesting intro I've ever gotten. There's a very big picture of my face, though. I'm glad it's gone. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. Thank you so much, Hiram, for having me. This has been a very busy time across the government, and I knew I had to come and speak with all of you because this is the group that gets it. I think any one of you could probably be up here giving this keynote speech. So before I even dive in, my ask for you is that as you're listening, you think about how you play a role in all of this. And if there are things I say that you disagree with, I hope you will come up and tell me after and give us advice. We are really all in this together, and it's a super complex ecosystem. But I just want to get a sense of actually how everyone is in the room. So is there anyone here who's a student? Oh, good, great, some students. Awesome, yeah. Who's here from the private sector? A lot of people from the private sector, okay. Who considers themselves an expert in AI? Okay, great. Expert in cybersecurity or InfoSec? Okay, very humble people around here, not considering themselves experts. Okay, I appreciate that. And who consider themselves an expert, like right on the center, cyber and InfoSec? Yes, back in the back. Say it loud, say it proud. Okay, I can't see your face, but I'm proud of you for being an expert. And okay, last one here, who's an expert in government? Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna try to help you understand how the government right now is thinking about these threats. I come from more of a background like all of you. I could very easily be sitting at this conference and it's kind of giving me a sense of my teaching background to be up here talking at a conference. And so forgive me if I'm a little overly engaging here, trying to go back to my roots as a teacher. But I just want to say that Hiram asked me to come to help you all understand how your work fits into this broader mission that we're working on as a US government. And it's incredibly easy to do that because it is so obvious. The work that you're doing fits right into the work that CISA, as you all know how to pronounce it now, thank you, Hiram, is doing to help secure both our nation, but also given the way that it's so interconnected, technology is so interconnected, really the world. And I first want to just give you a sense of the way that we're looking at the threat landscape right now in a big picture. So it's obvious that AI is going to have massive positive impacts across the board, from improving medical systems to empowering small businesses, transforming education in various ways. But as you all know, just as it's making all of our lives easier, it's also making the lives of our adversaries easier. And as we've looked at the threat landscape broadly, CISA hasn't actually seen malicious actors conducting cyber operations in a material novel manner using generative AI yet, but they are experimenting. And we have to be just as proactive experimenting in our defenses and in providing mitigations for those augmented threat actors. There have been some limited and potent uses of generative AI in ways you probably would expect that some people might minimize but are actually quite serious, which is in advanced phishing attacks. So all of you know that phishing is an incredibly common way of gaining access to a system that is becoming much more powerful with generative AI tools for translation, for deep fakes, et cetera. And this is obviously a super critical part of social engineering. Now, the good news here is that the counteraction for phishing is stuff that we already know about. Two-factor authentication already assumes that people aren't able to understand the difference between what's a true email and what's not a true email. And so this is going to be a theme in what I'm telling you all, which is that doubling down on the security basics is going to be incredibly important as we continue to augment our cyber capabilities in the same way that malicious actors are doing the same. Has anyone here been involved with the work of the US or UK AI safety institutes? Familiar with it? Okay, so these are organizations that were set up within both the UK and the US and around the world to advance the science of AI testing and evaluation. And the UK has already put out a report on some of their early findings in evaluating models. And what they found so far is that they conducted CTF evaluations specifically in the cyber domain and other domains as well, but we're focused here on cyber. And they found that several LLMs were able to compete basically at the level of a high school student in a CTF, but not a university student. And so far, they're still struggling at more complex reasoning, and we need to be prepared as LLMs and other machine learning tools advance. But that we, for now, can continue to use the techniques that we have, the traditional cybersecurity techniques, to protect against these threats. So I wanted to set that stage before diving a little more into CISA-specific work. And if any of you have seen different threats from your vantage points, I certainly want to hear about it. So taking a step back, does anyone here know what CISA stands for? Okay, you want to share? Is super close. So we are the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So we love security so much that we actually put it in the name twice. And and we lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to the critical infrastructure that we all rely on every hour of every day. And we serve two core roles. So first, we're the operational lead for federal cybersecurity. So imagine protecting the .gov. And we also are the national coordinator for critical infrastructure security and resilience. So if you just think about your last 12 hours, I'll think about mine. So last night, one of my best friends actually was in the hospital for a happy reason. She had her first child, and she was able to rely on these medical systems as she was in labor for many, many hours, and able to text me over my cell phone I went to bed happily, excited to come see CAMLIS in the morning, and I drove my car here. I was able to plug it in the parking garage and rely on this technology to speak to all of you. And these are the critical services in challenging situations and simple day-to-day situations that we're all relying on every day. And that's CISA's role, to protect all those systems. And fun fact, over 80% of them are in the private sector, where all of you are working. So it's not super straightforward to work to reduce risk to those systems. And we rely on partnerships with you, partnerships with our interagency partners, and across the board in nonprofit, private sector. And because of this particular role in cybersecurity and critical infrastructure security, we play an important part in managing risks at the intersection of AI, cybersecurity, and critical infrastructure. And I hope by the end of this conversation, you understand that you all play an incredibly important role in that as well. So as Hiram mentioned, about 19 months ago, we set out to evaluate how AI was impacting our mission at CISA, rapid advances in AI, including the fact that it was much more accessible to people all around the world for good and for ill. And we've been implementing our work through 5 lines of effort in order to achieve that mission that I mentioned. So the first is responsible use of AI for our mission. The second is AI assurance. So no bad actors involved. We're just trying to make sure that as we adopt new tools, especially our critical infrastructure partners, some of which are probabilistic, that we have tools to continue the next generation of software assurance, and that we have evidence that they are operating in ways we would expect. Third, protecting critical infrastructure from malicious use of AI. Fourth, collaborating and communicating with our interagency and international partners on all of the efforts going on around the world. And then finally, expanding AI expertise in our workforce. I'm sure many of you are thinking about that in your companies as well. So we've been working on this over the last 19 months or so, and I want to give you a couple of takeaways that we've come to based on this work. So the first is that AI does not fundamentally change our mission. There's an instinct with this topic with a lot of hype for people to run towards the ball. I've said at the beginning when ChatGPT was first released out into the public that it felt a little bit like kids at a soccer game running to the ball. And it's been really important for us to remember our place on the field and then think about all of our work through that lens. And it's been our mission has been our guide through everything we do, and especially through this hot topic that has a lot of hype around it. So as a reminder, our mission is to understand, manage, and reduce risk to critical infrastructure. And so to better understand the ways that the introduction of AI systems might introduce new risks, we set out to evaluate alongside our interagency and private sector partners the ways that AI might make critical infrastructure more vulnerable to critical failures, cyber attacks, and physical attacks. And this was a massive project across 16 different critical infrastructure sectors. I know the word critical infrastructure can often start to lose its meaning when you say it so many times, but remember those stories at the beginning, the things that we rely on every day, our energy system, healthcare system, our education system, the financial sector, the water sector. So these are very diverse parts of our international ecosystem, all of whom are looking to adopt AI in new ways, and that brings with it new possibilities and new risks. So we organized our evaluation into 3 core categories. The first was attacks using AI systems. So this is using AI to automate, enhance, plan, or scale physical or cyber compromises of critical infrastructure. So you can think of any way in which someone might use AI to enable a cyber incident or a cyber attack. Then attacks targeting AI systems. So this could be taking advantage of a unique vulnerability in an AI tool. I think this is something many of you are probably expert at. So for example, manipulation of an AI algorithm or an evasion attack or something like that. So these are new sorts of attacks that our partners need to be aware of. And then failures in design and implementation. And this is a deficiency in planning, structure, implementation, execution or maintenance of an AI tool or system that leads to unintended consequences. And this third one is sometimes overlooked. I think people want to think about the cyber attacker with, their hat trying to take advantage of a system. But this is incredibly important, and we don't have to look much farther than the widespread IT outage over the summer that many of us were probably impacted by to understand why. Did anyone have any canceled flights during the CrowdStrike incident? Yep. Okay. So many of us were impacted by that. That was not a malicious actor taking advantage of a technology tool. It was a failure in design and implementation, and specifically the maintenance of a faulty update in a technology company, and then that disrupted across sectors. And so this is the kind of thing that if we're not careful with, as AI systems are integrated into tools across the ecosystem, that will happen more often, given that these are probabilistic tools. So we have to be really proactive in developing assurance capabilities for these models. So using these three categories, so the ones I said were attacks using AI systems, attacks on AI systems, and failures in design and implementation, we use those as a foundation to develop broad safety and security guidelines for critical infrastructure owners and operators so that they can use those to mitigate those risks. Now, as I mentioned, critical infrastructure is incredibly diverse, and so we expect sectors to provide more specific versions of this, and we also expect, if we learn from these annual risk assessments that we're doing, that anything has changed, to update those guidelines. But for the moment, we think at a high level, these describe the work that critical infrastructure owners and operators can do to support their efforts to keep people safe. And the good news is that even though there are some unique attack vectors here, many of the mitigations come down to doubling down on security basics. So this leads me to my next point, which is that AI is not magic, it is software. And while we have to take these advances seriously, we can't give them more power than they deserve. They are technological systems that, while are advancing quickly, are shaped by people and incentives. And you all probably know security is heavily impacted by people and incentives. So who's on a security team at a company versus like a product? I guess there are security products, but and have you ever had tension with a product team about trying to build security into the product ahead of time? I see some nods and laughter. Yes. So you've experienced firsthand. I don't need to tell you that incentives are involved, but there's been an AI gold rush, obviously over the last 19 months, but also over the last decades. And this parallels previous generations of software security challenges, where manufacturers do not build technology that's secure by design, putting the burden of security on the customer. So if you look over the past 4 decades, from the creation of the internet to the mass adoption of software to the rise of social media, we have witnessed safety and security taking a back seat as companies prioritize speed to market and features over security. And we have to use the development and implementation of these new AI systems with all of their power and all of their possibility to break that cycle. And you all are a part of making sure that we know how to actually do that, because that's an easy thing to say, but it's not actually that easy to implement. But critically, it's not all technical. Manufacturers of AI systems have to follow secure by design principles. So 1, take ownership of security outcomes for your customers. 2, lead product development with radical transparency and accountability. And 3, secure by design has to be a top business priority. It can't be relegated to a security team like, oh, they'll fix it. It has to be in the C-suite, people thinking that they need to make sure things are secure by design before putting them out into the world. And as the use of AI continues to grow and is incorporated into these critical systems that we rely on, security has got to be a core requirement and integral not only to the AI system and model, like the red teaming that is going on downstairs, but also to the systems that surround it. And this is a goal that I know you are all contributing to, and I'm incredibly grateful that you are. And CISA has been working to try to help people understand what it means to develop systems that are secure by design, AI systems in particular. And we've collaborated probably with some of you. Did anyone help work on any of CISA's documents? Thank you. Appreciate that. And if we haven't collaborated, I would love to get in touch. You are all experts here. But we've done a series of guidelines. So we've done some for developers. We co-drafted with our UK counterparts guidelines for secure AI system development. It was co-sealed by 18 international cyber agencies. And sorry, it was actually 21 international cyber agencies in 18 countries. So 18 countries coming together to think about how to do this safely. We've also done follow-up guidance in collaboration with our Australian partners and 10 other international partners on how users can safely engage with artificial intelligence. And we've worked with our NSA partners and our Five Eyes counterparts at the other cybersecurity agencies to develop guidelines for deployers of AI systems. And look, I know there is an oversaturation of AI guidelines right now. I experience it myself as we're trying to incorporate AI tools into our mission and trying to eat our own dog food in the way that we're doing it. So we are trying to be incredibly thoughtful about placing all of the guidance that we do put out into the context of what exists, and only doing so if there's actually a critical gap to be solved. So you all probably are well aware of what those gaps are, and I'd love to make sure that we talk about the things that you think are missing in this ecosystem. So AI is software, and there is so much information that you can draw from your backgrounds in information security and cybersecurity. And then the third takeaway here is that to ensure robust AI security, the AI development community has got to double down on security basics. Again, I am preaching to the choir here, but it is nice to preach to the choir. So many AI developers, I know, okay, I'll take myself as an example. I was not required in my Stanford master's degree to take a security course to learn how to code with security in mind. And there needs to be a bridge between the communities of InfoSec and machine learning. If only there was, oh wow, okay, that's great. You're all on the frontier of this. So we have to learn from these fundamental security practices, whether it be robust and comprehensive data management, AI software testing, AI vulnerability management, AI incident management, end-of-life management. We don't need to recreate the wheel on every single one of these things, but we do need to understand and educate the machine learning development community about how their work fits into the existing systems and where there might be gaps. And I just want to highlight 3 specific examples of ways that CISA is working to make sure that we use our traditional processes to serve AI security. So I'll talk about AI incident response, AI red teaming, and vulnerability detection. So first of all, AI incident response. Has anyone here heard of the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, or JCDC? I am not the only music lover at CISA. The director of our agency, Jenny Sterley, also loves music, and believe it was her that named JCDC. I think the lawyers had a problem with ACDC as the name of it. So the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, JCDC, is meant to improve this partnership with the private sector and really recreate collaboration to be truly an operational collaboration in the case of a crisis. Remember at the front of this talk when I said that over 80% of critical infrastructure is in the private sector. And so we are going to rely on information sharing and collaboration with those partners in the case of a crisis. And so to improve cybersecurity collaboration among AI providers, we developed a subgroup of JCDC called JCDC.ai within that Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative. And this is focused on building an enduring operational community of AI providers, creators, security entities, and other infrastructure stakeholders to examine together if there are new and different ways that the government and private sector should be collaborating and approaching information sharing in the age of AI and with specifically AI systems. And also, frankly, to get those AI companies involved in this effort overall for just the cybersecurity information sharing community. Is anyone here a part of JCDC.ai? Awesome. Okay, this is great. I feel like every single thing I say, there's someone who's been involved in some way. I really appreciate everyone here. So in June, we conducted our first tabletop exercise, and we're doing all of this to develop an AI security incident playbook that will be shared with the community this fall sometime. We started by doing an exercise that brought together 50 AI experts and from government agencies, industry, and international partners. And it was a 4-hour exercise. It simulated an incident where an AI defense agent, like a spam detection program, was trained on poison data and was misclassifying phishing emails as benign. And then employees unknowingly used a compromised open source LLM to exfiltrate data, and players discussed responses and kind of proactively engaged along this particular AI security incident that had breached the confidentiality, integrity, availability of this data. After that exercise, started drafting the JCDC AI security playbook. And then last month, we held our second tabletop exercise, which brought together almost 80 participants, because this time we also brought together a particular critical infrastructure sector, the financial sector. And so we had both our JCDC members, federal partners, also international partners, and financial sector partners. And this one simulated an incident with a financial services company that relied on an AI assistant powered by a third-party language model to enhance financial advisors' recommendations. And a vulnerability from an open source dependency was exploited by an adversary, allowing them, again, to exfiltrate sensitive data and conduct a prompt injection attack. And this compromise resulted in this AI assistant ultimately producing suboptimal or misleading recommendations. So this was super interesting. There was a lot of interest from our JCDC partners in continuing to collaborate across other critical infrastructure sectors, because this was a very specific, unique incident to the financial sector in which someone was actually getting bad financial advice, which influenced the industry. And as a result of just these 2 tabletop exercises, we've been able to lower information sharing barriers across the community of folks that have been involved in this. We've been able to explore what it means to have AI-specific incident response, because it's not always clear that there is something that different about it. There might be, but there's not. There's a lot that is shared with traditional cybersecurity, and also improve trust and collaboration. And we are really eager to publish this AI security playbook. We hope we'll get your feedback on it. We'll continue to make this group the most impactful for the community as we continue to proceed. And one of the things that's really great about it is that it is really the operational people who come to the table, the security people who would be reacting in an incident and sharing information with each other. Another area from which we learn a lot for AI security from traditional security is in red teaming. And I do want to give a shout out to the event happening downstairs. It's co-organized with NIST and with Humane Intelligence, and CISA has proudly been a cybersecurity advisor on that particular red teaming event. And we have been working to bring the cyber back to red teaming. So beyond prompt hacking, thinking about the system in the context of people, processes, and technology in the way that we do our red teaming with our partners. And we are also beginning to receive requests across the federal government as our federal government partners use more AI tools to conduct penetration testing and technical testing on large language models. And we only expect that demand to grow as AI capability development and implementation continues to grow in the federal government. And so we are internally developing our red teaming capabilities for AI systems and relying on the great research that you're all doing here. I know there are a couple presentations on that today in addition to the effort downstairs. And so just the eval space has so much space to grow. I probably don't have to tell all of you that, but I really appreciate you continuing to be on the frontier of that work. And we're also exploring ways that AI can help us double down on our cybersecurity mission. So we were tasked in the executive order to do a pilot for vulnerability detection in the federal civilian executive branch. And we conducted this pilot. We used an AI tool to work to detect and remediate vulnerabilities in a US government system. And our findings so far were that while we're optimistic about these new tools, they are not silver bullets. And the best use of AI is still in using AI in relation to other tools, supplementing and enhancing existing tools. And the framework of all the cybersecurity work around using the LLM is incredibly important. It's not just going to fix things on its own. And they still require strong cybersecurity processes and humans in the loop of the information that we're getting. We don't have any cybersecurity tool right now that we're using across CISA that doesn't come to a human being or an analyst, not a human being or an analyst. Analysts are humans. That comes to an analyst to put into the context of broader information. And I saw a couple presentations on LLM agents for vulnerability detection. So love to talk to those folks if you're around after. Okay, so I said 3 key takeaways. I'm going to wrap up soon so that we can just get questions from you, and then we'll have time to actually talk following this. So the first was that AI is not fundamentally changing your mission. Second, it's not magic. It's ultimately software and should be treated as such. And third, the AI development community has to double down on security basics. And I want to end with a word of thanks and a call to action. So first of all, thank you. Our mission truly isn't possible. It's not possible for us to achieve our mission without the continued work that you're all doing, both in your roles in the private sector and also in the research community. And your work is not just research, it is practical research, it's applied research and pushing the field forward and helping us get an understanding of where the technology is and where it's heading. So really appreciate all the work that you're doing. Second, a question, is there anything we're missing? Do the risks that I described match the things that you're seeing from your vantage point? Is there anything that I said that you vehemently disagree with? I really, truly want to know. It is impossible for any one of us to see the full landscape from where we're sitting, and that's why we rely on these sorts of engagements and interactions and ongoing operational collaboration to continue to grow and meet the moment together as a country. And third, please do keep in touch, follow our work, give us feedback, and even better, come work for us, with me, at CISA in the US government. We have a new AI hiring authority across the US government. You can go to ai.gov and see all of the roles that are available. I personally expect to have a couple of roles open up, and so if the stuff I talk to you about is intriguing and you have expertise along those lines, or if you think I'm just doing it all wrong and you want to help come fix it, please do come talk to me or reach out. Has anyone here served in government? Oh, awesome. Okay, so you all know the joys and challenges of serving in government. There's nothing more meaningful than spending even just a couple of years to give back and understand the ways that the broader US government is dealing with these challenges, and really it's a moment where you truly have a chance to shape it. You know, I most recently was coming from a research background, and it's been incredibly meaningful to be here on the edge, trying to work this out together across the US government. Some people who are experts in AI, some people experts in cybersecurity, some people experts in government, and bring everyone together to think about how we can approach this. So it's a super exciting time. I'm really grateful for all the work that you're doing to shape it. And I think Lauren's gonna kick us off with a question, and then I'm gonna take your questions and leave a little time for just chatting afterwards. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's amazing to have you here. And like you said, like with all these practitioners in the room, I think the conversation is going to be like very valuable to both sides. Yeah, I wanted to kick us off with a question. So I work at Meta. I'm working on the team that does evaluations of large language models in terms of cybersecurity risk. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is that right now, like in terms of the CTF challenges, like they're not that great, but we do expect them to get better. And I think when that does happen, there's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of hype probably. When they get better at those things, I'm guessing they might also get better at a lot of the defensive tasks like vulnerability finding, patching, and all that. So I'm curious, how is CISA thinking about like comparing those two or weighing those two outcomes? Does one kind of offset the other? Is it the case that we just need to like pursue, like we need to push on the defensive side more? How is CISA thinking about like the balance between the offensive and the defensive capabilities of these models?
Right, so cybersecurity is always a cat and mouse game. And as I mentioned this in my in the conversation I had about secure by design, there's a rush to get these products to market, and our adversaries are experimenting, and it's easier, to be frank, for them to experiment than a government employee to experiment, because there's a lot of guidelines, rightly so, about the ways that we can use AI in the government. So there was actually a memo that came out right after the AI executive order last year, the OMB AI memo about providing guidelines for the use of AI tools within the government. And it means that we're setting up strong and efficient, eventually, processes to evaluate new AI tools, bring them into the fold so that we can be experimenting in the same way that our adversaries are and keep up with the work that they're doing. And super interestingly, the memo asks that when you're using a new AI tool, and there's lots of definitions around what that means, that the word AI is losing all meaning to me. I feel like we just say it all the time. Machine learning, let's go back to that. But you have to evaluate whether it has the possibility to be safety and rights impacting. And if it is going to be safety and rights impacting, to do a series of tests and evaluations. And then we are all required to publicly share the ways that we're using AI tools. This is a bit of a roundabout way to say, we're putting these processes in place to make it easier for people to use technology, not harder. And we have to be, I think there's more of a risk of the US government not mobilizing quickly enough to get technology integrated, while externally, obviously, there's a risk that companies are rushing to market too quickly. One more thing on that, though. We also feel really strongly at CISA that we shouldn't just AI everything. We should use the best automation available. That's it. Might not be AI.
What? That's very controversial.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions. I think I'll hand the microphone.
Hey Lisa, great talk. I'm Will Fleshman. I'm an Army cyber officer, so very empathetic to your mission. You mentioned providing assurances to stochastic models. I'm curious if CISA, are they comfortable with things like differential privacy, where you might be able to tell someone, hey, there's a 99% chance that there's a 1% or less risk of leaking information? Are those kind of probabilistic guarantees good enough for anyone in the government, or does it have to be all or nothing?
The number of times I've had lawyers edit a document to make me not say ensure, and I have to say help ensure. So we're never gonna have all. I don't know if that means, you got it, thanks. We can never fully ensure security. It's much more important to have resilience. And so specifically across critical infrastructure, we know our adversaries are incredibly strong and talented and committed. And it's not really a question of whether there's going to be a disruption, whether it be a privacy disruption or any other kind of disruption. It's a question of how quickly we can bounce back in the face of that adversity. And so we're focused as an agency on resilience over perfection, because this is a much too quickly evolving ecosystem.
Thanks.
And thanks you for your service. Really appreciate it.
Hi. I'm thinking about like the 90s and sort of the moment in which like buffer overflows and memory exploits became obviously an issue. You know, it's like we knew that this was a critical security risk back then, but then we shipped like a bajillion Intel CPUs that had like memory issues, and like, you know, we have a massive national code base written in C and C++ and this kind of thing. And like just thinking back to that, like perhaps like an agency like CISA would, like, had it existed back then, could have intervened, you know, at that inflection point in a very high leverage way. And I'm wondering if you see opportunities for that kind of thing now, like at the beginning of the mass adoption of AI.
Do we have 40 more minutes to talk about memory safety? Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, on memory safety, I just want to say that there's a really exciting DARPA challenge. Are people familiar with DARPA? They do these, okay, everyone knows DARPA. Wow, this is a fun room. This is like, everyone knows what I'm talking about. They have a program called TRACTOR. Is it Translating Rust? It's a really fun acronym. I don't have it memorized, but it's trying to use new AI tools to translate memory unsafe code to memory safe code. It's a really exciting challenge. It's something CISA is involved in because we feel very strongly about erasing some of these vulnerabilities. It's such a good question. I think collectively, the world has been coming together around these particular advances in AI in a way that I haven't seen with other generations of software. And I am hopeful that the ways that we are coming together around evaluations, around security, can help influence the direction of this technology. And I also am hopeful that you have additional really great ideas for how we can prevent the memory unsafe explosion or its equivalent in this generation of software, if you think of anything. Yeah.
Thank you. You've mentioned a couple of things that just sound awesome that CISA is doing, a couple of programs, a couple of initiatives, ways to structure things.
Thanks.
I'm in the private sector. I have information overload. My inbox overflows. How can I be aware of these types of projects as they come to fruition? Like, am I following you on appropriate, social medias? Like, how do I stay in tune with that?
Were you implying that government doesn't have information overload? Just kidding. You said, I'm in the private sector. I have information overload. We all do. I mean, I'm so empathetic to that. And so CISA.gov/AI is very updated. If you want just AI specific things, that would be the place to follow. But CISA is also on all the social media platforms. And you can follow some of our core AI people, like I'm on LinkedIn and things like that, just to help stay attuned with the things that are happening. But it's true that there is information overload, and I think that's on us to be more clear and specific and not overload you. And so I promise to do my best to only tell you things that are very valuable. And you should follow CISA on the interwebs. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. Great talk. So you said a couple of things around the private sector's willingness to consider security during the development process. And I love the idea of that changing. Incentive structures are unlikely to change. So I was wondering.
Are you a private sector? What is your role? Sorry.
I am in the private sector.
In a security role or a product?
Product role. And I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were around your role in shaping those incentives. Just, our economic system being what it is, and the things being prioritized that they are in order to get to market quickly. Outside of it being a good thing, if that were to happen and people were to prioritize security, how do you see your role as a government body shaping those incentives such that they are different and we maybe see different outcomes?
So we have seen, for example, in the context of Russia's further invasion of Ukraine a couple years ago now, our director put out a call for shields up across to CEOs, not just to the security community. And we saw an increase in the value of, it was to help people understand there's an increased threat to a certain cyber incident happening in the US, and we need to have our defenses up because that threat is not just to the government, it's across the private sector. And our interactions with security professionals following that said that it made a big difference for them. So we have seen examples where we communicate at the highest levels of an organization and people get on board because they understand the nature of the threat and they understand the nature of the opportunity. In the case of AI, there are people that are concerned about integrating these tools right now because of all of the hype and true concern about security issues related to them. So this truly is a business case right now to be made. People are not going to use these tools if they don't feel that they are safe, secure, trustworthy.
Hi. So the EU recently passed a software liability directive, and Jen Easterly has been talking for a while about software liability for developers. How do those apply to AI companies, the strict software liability?
So AI is software, so software liability would...
Like responsibility for it being secure, responsibility for it, like making companies liable for the mistakes their software has made. Like the CrowdStrike thing, making CrowdStrike actually liable for the damage that that mistake caused is where Jen Easterly at least has been making noise that that should be happening. It looks like the EU is going there. What would that kind of model look like, or how would it work for AI?
I just don't, my approach here is that AI companies are software companies. So I'm happy to talk to you more about it after though. Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad you're paying attention to what Jen's saying. She says great things.
Okay, thank you so much for being here, Lisa. Do you have time for one more? Okay, all right, we'll do the last.
About the online people.
Okay, great. Thank
Hi,
you so
online
much.
people.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, I didn't have to
Hiram,
see
you
you
want to
here.
ask the online question?
All right, this is from Dan Graham. Many of the US-based efforts on AI security are focused on foundation models that pass a certain size threshold, like 20 billion. How is the government, CISA's preparing for threats posed by SLMs, small language models that are capable but under the threshold?
I'm so glad we left time for that question. Thank you. Appreciate it. Everything I said was not related just to frontier models. CISA's work is more specifically related to the ways, of course, we are thinking about that in the context of cyber threats. We're working with the AI Safety Institute on advising them on various things, which is more focused on frontier models. But we're focused on any sorts of AI models, including small language models, and the ways that they might introduce new risks and possibilities to critical infrastructure systems and to the broader federal government. So we see a really important role for us in that, and we are absolutely thinking beyond just the most frontier systems. And thank you for the online questions.
Thank you so much. Let's give her
Thanks
another
so
round of
much.
applause.